thermal turbines. So turbomachinery is classified based on various aspects. One of them is the classification into thermal turbines and hydro turbines. Hydro turbines mainly it is liquid flow. So you have hydraulic turbines and pumps. Then you have hydraulic coupling. Those things are there. So in thermal turbines, as you see, gas turbines, steam turbines, maybe wind turbines. Then other thermal turbo machines are there. That is compressors, fans, and blowers. So they are not turbines. They are power absorbing turbo machines, whereas turbines are power generating. Turbines also come under the category of machines called prime movers. Prime movers. You might come across this term somewhere, prime movers. So they are actually shaft power sources, primary shaft power sources. Now coming to these two, gas turbine and steam turbines. See, we'll begin with gas turbines, but briefly think of the application of these thermal turbines. So as a class, the first one is they can be used for propulsion, especially gas turbine is used very much. So propulsion means to move something. So usually, when you talk about propulsion, you have the propelled mass and the propelling mass. The two masses are there. So under this, you have the propulsion of something in the air. Of course, propulsion of something in space is also there, aerospace propulsion. Then trains or rail propulsion. Then on road, automobiles. Then water, maybe propulsion. Propulsion. There is nothing to beat that. So that is the main thing for aerospace propulsion. And what you may have to remember is it has the highest power to weight ratio of any um, um, this power generating device, the prime mover, highest power for unit weight. Then the second class of application is the one used as prime mover to moving some other machine. So there you have important two classes. One is electrical power generation. So these prime movers will be coupled to generators. So when you think of this particular application, think of the highest speed the AC generator can work in our country, that is 3000 RPM. So that is pretty small for these gas and steam turbines, but all of them are working like that when they are used for generating electric power, low speed. Low speed in the sense for gas and steam turbines, they are low, 3000 RPM. Okay, then these gas and steam turbines can be used for driving other machinery, mainly the compressors, the fans also, maybe pumps may be driven by this, centrifugal pumps. Okay, so for running these machines also gas and steam turbine could be used. Now a brief comparison between gas turbine and steam turbine. So one thing, both these machines are not very common. Not many of us would have seen a gas turbine or a steam turbine, maybe touch that. See, their applications are mostly far away, though there are few applications like you have the turbocharger in an automobile. There you have a gas turbine that is tiny. Maybe if you talk about the smallest gas turbine which you can say it's a turbocharger, maybe in a small engine, maybe an engine of 100 horsepower or even smaller. Okay, so such engines you have. Otherwise, gas turbines are far away, maybe in an aircraft which you don't go near and see. Well, then coming to gas turbine, temperatures, in temperatures, turbine quite the temperature is lower, it is only 600 degrees centigrade. Okay, steam turbine used to be run by steam at 540 degrees centigrade, 540. Okay, that used to be the highest. Now people talk about supercritical and ultra critical steam turbines where the pressures are more than the critical pressure. Well, to understand critical pressure, you should have some idea about critical point. What is critical point? So you may have to remember what you studied in thermodynamics. Okay, so above that pressure, you cannot compress a gas and liquefy it. Okay, many definitions are there. For steam, the critical temperature may be around 221 bar. So when the pressure is higher than that, finally the steam temperature could be up to 600 degrees centigrade, and that is not even half of the gas turbine temperature. Then about the pressure, relatively low pressure in the case of gas turbine, maybe 40 bar or 50 bar, when that is quite high for gas turbines. For steam turbines, the pressure could be up to 250 bar. So that critical pressure is around 221. Earlier, ordinary steam turbines or thermal boilers, they were generating steam at about 170 bar only, less than 200 bar. Okay, and the corresponding temperature used to be 540. That was the one BHEL used to make. So now they are making supercritical boilers. Anybody knows about supercritical boilers? You have seen or you have heard, or if you don't, you tell me. Hello?
Yes, sir.
You heard about it, correct?
No, sir.
No, sir. So supercritical. So, okay. So the pressures, are pretty high in the case of steam turbines. Then about rotational speeds. So gas turbines, high rotational speeds. Steam turbines, relatively lower speeds. Now, about gas turbine highest speed, one can confidently say it is at least about 1 lakh RPM. Okay, what runs at 1 lakh RPM?
Turbocharger.
The turbocharger runs at such a high speed. Okay, I don't know whether we can easily measure that. It's all people say that, even some say it is 1.6 lakhs. Okay, whereas steam turbine, initially when they made, I think the steam turbine ran around 25,000 RPM or so, and they found methods to reduce the speed effectively by some technique called compounding, and we shall study about that maybe tomorrow or in the next week. Okay, so steam turbine at present, when it is used for electric power generation, it is only 3000 RPM, and that is the major application. In India, so many steam generators will be there, and the turbines, they will run at 3000 only, and they might be running in some cases 6000 RPM to run some pump or compressor like that. You may not have application for 20,000, 30,000 like that. Okay, then high power to weight ratio, this you cannot forget, because of this single parameter, gas turbines are only used in aircraft propulsion. So then lower number of stages. See, this number of stages usually depends on the total pressure drop, and the pressure rate, highest pressure is 40 bar only, whereas there it is 250 bar. So in gas turbines, the number of stages is less, and again, in the aircraft application, you would like to reduce the number of stages so that the overall weight will come down. So relatively higher number of stages in steam turbines. See, steam turbine, what should be the main consideration? Somebody can think and tell me. See, gas turbines, we try to reduce the stages because we are very much particular about higher power to weight ratio, or the weight of the gas turbine should be less because it is going to be fitted in aircraft. Now, what should be the desired thing in the case of steam turbines? Anybody?
Efficiency and flow rate.
Efficiency. So if somebody asks why people, try to go for 250 bar and 600 degrees centigrade and endangering people around, because if it explodes, it's a mighty explosion. So everything they say, slight in efficiency. They don't talk about the weight there. Okay, so that thought should be there at the back of mind. The desired things in steam turbines, the desired things in gas turbines. Then axial length is small, the shaft length, because number of stages are less. Then steam turbine axial length is more. What are the, you will see that initially there's a high pressure stage, then it is taken to the reheater, the boiler, then again it comes, then you have the intermediate pressure turbine on the same shaft. Then from the intermediate, it is taken and divided into two, and again another two turbines in the same shaft, the low pressure turbines. Okay, so pretty long. Axial length is much large. Then maximum power, this it's about 280 megawatts it is given, and this is mainly for stationary power plant. And in the case of aircraft, they don't talk about the power in kilowatt or megawatt. Instead, they talk about the thrust in pounds or kilonewtons, like that. Okay, then from thrust, can you calculate the power? Anybody? See, jet engine, if they tell the thrust is so much, how do you calculate the power?
Sir, force into velocity, power.
Yeah. So which velocity will you take? Which velocity you will take?
Sir, that relative velocity of that jet.
No, not there. Not that velocity. I thought you got the answer. It is finally the aircraft velocity. See, it is fixed in an aircraft. It develops the thrust. Okay. So the problem is, when you have at ground, when it is not running, at that time it won't develop that much thrust. But mainly you think of even final. See, you have takeoff, climb, then finally cruise. During cruise, maybe if it travels at 900 kilometers per hour, you can the speed. You convert it in velocity. Maybe it will come to around 270, 280 meters per second. Then multiply that by the thrust. But at that time, how much thrust is required? Okay, you can think of some analysis you can make. If you say that the maximum thrust specified will be available there, or it is utilizing that, then you multiply and find out. You will get a very high power. Okay, I haven't checked for the large engines used in Airbus A380 or something like that. I should calculate and find out. That is how you can find out. Now, this steam turbines, the maximum power is 1500 megawatt, or even could be little more. So very large one. So initial days, BHEL was making 210 megawatts. From that 500 it went, then I think 800. I think in India, I think we make less than 1000 only. Elsewhere, for a single shaft, they have gone up to 1500. Then this gas turbine, is it internal combustion engine or external combustion engine? Okay. So some good books say that it is internal combustion engine. But steam turbines are confirmed external combustion engines. Nobody doubts about that. Okay. Now, is there any point to say that this thing gas turbines are not IC engines? Anybody? Okay, no answer. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, now, basic, gas turbine analysis. So I have, some, sketches on the left side and some on the right side. So they are for a particular type of analysis. So what is that you have on the right side? What name we can give for that analysis? Okay, we will call it thermodynamic analysis or energy analysis. Okay, velocities and other things. Velocity, general name is momentum. See, we have these three big principles: conservation of mass, conservation of momentum, conservation of energy. So right side, that is about energy based thing. Conservation of energy principles will be used, thermodynamic. On the left side, it is velocity only. It is basically momentum producing forces and force into some distance, torque, all those things we calculate. So some turbomachinery problems only energy based. So based on HS diagram you can solve. Some problems you will have only velocity triangle based, that is momentum based problems. So general issue is both are involved. Okay, so you can see the cascade representation. Two blades are there. So you will find that the camber is very large. The curvature of that line, the angle, entry angle and exit angle, total difference in that is very large. Okay, then you have the inlet velocity triangle, exit velocity triangle. Then I can combine these two and construct a combined velocity trapezium. Okay, on the base you have U, on the top you will have delta Cu. Delta Cu is Cu1 from this end to here, then Cu2 from here. So then the height is there, that is the flow velocity. And what is that we have on the right side here? What's the name? Can you see that?
Yes, sir. Dimensionless figure.
What is it called? Dimensionless, non-dimensional velocity trapezium, we can say. So what is the base length here?
1.
1, because U is divided by U. All the velocities are divided by U. And the height is phi. What is phi? The name is flow coefficient. Okay, it is defined as the flow velocity by U. Then the top side is the loading coefficient psi. It is nothing but the specific work divided by U square. So specific work is U into delta Cu. divided by u square, one u will get cancelled. So finally what you get is delta cu by u, and that is psi. Angles will be there. So other velocities also we have to non-dimensionalize, dividing them by u. So you can indicate the angles with respect to the axial direction, but many books, and I think in steam turbine practice they were giving the angles with respect to the tangential direction. Okay, so that in some problems we will be using only tangential direction. You should be careful about that. So on the right hand side, what you have is the enthalpy entropy diagram. So this enthalpy entropy diagram is of the same shape as the temperature entropy diagram for the gases, because H is equal to Cp into T, whereas for steam they are little different. Okay, so these are all based on gas turbines. What you see here is the entry point, not E. Okay, so first entry point to the first thing, that is up to 1, that is in the nozzle. Then 1 to 2 is the flow through the rotor. So I wanted to keep always 1 to 2 for the rotor. Again, books may say 1 to 2 for the nozzle and 2 to 3 for the rotor. That convention is also there. So now, because initial entry I have used E, so not E is the stagnation condition at entry, and E is the static condition. The nozzle E transfer, so the stagnation temperature does not change. Then in the rotor, you find that the stagnation temperature changes from 0.1 to 0.2. Okay, then if you add c square by c2 square by 2, you get 0.2, the stagnation point at 2. So in the nozzle the velocity is increased, the enthalpy decreases. Now here I'm showing one interesting thing. For these turbines, there's a quantity called relative stagnation enthalpy, which remains constant in the rotor. So it is defined by H1 plus W1 square by 2. H1 plus C1 square by 2 is called stagnation enthalpy. But here it is not C1. What we use is W1, which is the relative velocity. And that quantity is called stagnation enthalpy, but not actual, it is relative stagnation enthalpy. So one can prove that they are constant. How do we do that? Is H0 minus H2, if I write, I get an equation like this. Okay, that is H1 plus C1 square by 2 plus H2 plus C2 square by 2. That is based on energy constraint, initial energy, final energy, specific energy. So that is also equal to, from Euler equation, C1 square minus C2 square by 2 plus W2 square minus W1 square by 2 plus another term usually comes. What is that? Anybody?
Sir, flow velocity CF1 square minus CF2 square upon 2.
What is it? U1 square minus U2 square by 2. That is the third term. In this case, U1 is equal to U2 is equal to U, so that third term is not there. Now, in this equation, H01 minus H02 is equal to H1 plus C1 square by 2 minus H2 plus C2 square by 2 is equal to what you get in the right hand side. So the second and third term, if you equate, you will immediately get this condition: H1 plus W1 square by 2 is equal to H2 plus W2 square by 2. And what is it? H01. What is the name of that? Okay, you have to note relative stagnation enthalpy. It's a new idea. See how far it is useful, we don't know. They are all defined in relative stagnation. Okay. Now problem. You have a gas at 7 bar and 300 degrees centigrade expanding to 3 bar in an impulse turbine stage. The nozzle angle is 70 degrees with respect to the axial direction. The rotor blades have equal inlet and outlet angles. Okay, that is the usual case for impulse turbines. The stage operates with the optimum blade speed ratio. Okay, we'll see that later. Assuming that the isentropic efficiency of the nozzle is 0.9 and that the velocity at entry to the stage is negligible, deduce the blade angle used and the mass flow rate required for the stage to produce 75 kilowatt. Take Cp equal to 1.15 kilojoules per kg and gamma is equal to 1.333. Okay, so you can see that the gamma value is different. Usually for air we take 1.4. In gas turbine we use 1.333. Any reason we can attribute why gamma is 1.33 taken for gas turbines?
Monoatomic or triatomic?
Yeah, based on that, this is triatomic because you may have CO2 or H2O. But one thing, in gas turbine, there will be a lot of unburned or unreacted, nitrogen will be there, oxygen will be there because the ratio, the air fuel ratio will be much higher than air will be more when compared to the stoichiometric ratio. Okay, excess air will be very much. Okay, anyhow, for the numerical problem, this is the value given. Now we will attempt the problem. So one thing, you have the velocity triangle here. Okay, a single blade and the triangles are given. On the right side you have the TS or HS diagram. Okay, now at X entry, only not E is given because you don't have a static condition. It is mentioned that the velocity at entry stage is almost negligible. Okay, then the nozzle, the rotor inlet is 1. Then it is impulse. So the along the rotor, the enthalpy, static enthalpy does not change. Okay. Okay, so 1 and 2 are in the same level. Then at 2 you have the stagnation condition, not 2. The height difference will be C2 square by E 300 degrees centigrade. It is equal to 300 plus 273. It is 573 K. The pressure at P0 E is 7 bar. The pressure at 1 is 3 bar. Now we have to find out the temperature at 1. So for that what we do is we first find out the temperature 1s, because 1s and 0E, that is not E, they are in the same isentropic level line, so I can use that isentropic relationship. Okay, so and at 1s the pressure is nothing but this 1 and 1s are the same pressure. So I will be able to get the temperature T1s. Then we have the nozzle efficiency which relates 1s to 1. Okay, nozzle efficiency is the isentropic the actual drop divided by the isentropic drop. Actual drop is from not E to 1, that height difference. Isentropic drop is not E to 1s. So that is what I have, T0 E minus T1. That is actual drop divided by T0 E divided by T1s. That value is given. So from the first isentropic relationship, you can find out T1s. So that comes to 463.7 K. Then using nozzle efficiency, we get T1. So now T1 is known and initial condition is also known. Delta T I can calculate. So this delta T can be used for finding out the velocity at entry. Okay, because the height, this is nothing but c1 square by 2. So we find the velocity c1, which is equal to 475.7 meters per second. Now we have to find out the blade velocity. For that we use this relationship, optimum blade speed ratio. Okay, so about this, I'll discuss later how exactly we got this value. Optimum speed ratio for the simple turbine is U by C1. So it is equal to half of sine alpha 1 C. The C is for complement. Okay, see the alpha I have indicated is with reference to tangential direction. So this angle should be with respect to axial direction. So I put it as alpha 1 complement, 90 minus this. So half of sine 70. So finally I get the blade velocity as 223.5 meters per second. That is the blade velocity. Okay, now we'll see what happens. Dismiss. I'll continue in the next class. And the second problem, if I take, I won't be able to finish. Any doubts so far? Any doubt?
Sir, why is the relative stagnation enthalpy constant?
Why it is constant, huh?
Yeah.
Now, see, it is, the mathematics gives us, but physically, I don't know. I have not thought about that. Okay. Mathematically, it is so. So something relatively in the relative frame, people explain that way also. In the relative frame, it doesn't change. But other than that, any physical significance, I don't know. It is true because the conclusion comes out of the mathematical deduction without any other assumption there. Any other doubt? Okay, we will continue in the next class. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.